Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. In this video, I'm going to be going over my current Child's build, just an updated version of the previous build I have. I finally got it almost done.
15,
There's a little bit
16,
more tweaking I would
20.
like, but it's all RNG at this point, so there's not too much I can really hope for unless I get lucky. But here, let's dive right into it. I kind of want to just show you everything, Child, just really quick. So my Child's level 90. His max HP is around 20k. As you can see, his attack is almost 1600. The defense doesn't really matter, but it's almost 900, and his elemental mastery is 80. And just to show off the percentages and everything, the crit rate is at 64%. This is I wish I could get this maybe to 70 and the crit damage to 150, but again, this is all RNG, so there's not much I can do about it. If I could get this a little higher, it would be cool. But the energy recharge is 167. That's pretty good. And then I have the hydro damage bonus to 90%. The weapon I'm using is the Viridescent Hunt, which is the weapon I do recommend getting for Child. If you do have a lot of critical rate and you don't need the extra critical rate as a substat for a weapon, then probably Rust would be better just for more damage output. But crit rate is actually really hard to get, and unless you get really lucky, like really lucky with RNG, I probably would recommend the Viridescent Hunt over Rust, to be honest, even though Rust matches with Child and looks dope on him. And so here, let's go with the artifacts. So for the artifacts, the substats that I'm looking for, in order that I personally look, there's just the top three, and then anything else is kind of whatever you want. I do recommend crit rate for Child the most, and then crit damage, then attack percent. Those I feel like that's the order, at least to that I look for. Again, it could be different for other people depending how you're building, but this is how I'm looking for it. And then the last two could be whatever you choose. It could be energy recharge if you want to use your ult a lot faster, get it a lot quicker, or elemental mastery if you want to get the electro charge, more damage, or even vaporize with more damage, which would be really good. Because how Child plays, having a sub DPS like Fischl, or having somebody who could just leave like Xiangling, who could leave Pyro out, which is not as good as it can be, to be honest, but getting some vaporize here and there is good, or even like Bennett for the vaporize, however you want to run this. And so here, let's go through the rest of them. This is the Gust of Nostalgia, the Feather. I have Elemental Mastery, attack percent, crit rate. As you can see, some of these have HP. It's because of the RNG. It's really hard to find exactly the right substats, and it could take months if how it depends how lucky or unlucky you are. It could take a week or two, or it could take a month or two. Like, it's just awful RNG. And then with the compass, you want attack percent. So this is where I'm getting to the actual ones that you need the main stat that you're looking for. I would recommend getting attack percent for the compass. Of course, I already said the substats. As you can see, I don't have a lot of crit damage, so my crit damage could be a lot more if I got luckier with other artifacts. But this is how it is at the moment. Hopefully, in the future, I could find a chance to get more crit damage and crit rate and lower the energy recharge, because honestly I have a lot of energy recharge on Child, which is not bad, but this is probably the best item I have for Child at the moment. Of course, this is probably the hardest one to get, is the hydro damage bonus on a cup. This is just really hard to get, just because there's such a low chance of getting a specific element that you need. On top of that, with really good substats, like this is probably the hardest one. So if you ever find a cup with really good substats and the one, just use that. Like, just use it. Make sure the other ones are always the set pieces, while this one is always the offset piece. Just if you follow that kind of golden rule, most of the time it should work. But some cases you might find a really good artifact that you might not want to change. That might be one of the other ones, so it could vary. And then lastly is you definitely want critical damage for the hat, just because you just need critical damage for at least what I'm trying to build with Child, which I'll show you, like the amount of damage I output with him. I don't really run a, so to say, like the milk composition. That's not really what I go for. I like having Child in the front line. I like actually using him, and being in the front line and just using his basic attacks is just really fun. I do like maybe 3,000 lowest to like 5,800 maximum with a certain team comp that I'm using, but this could vary depending on how you use it. If you're using food, food buffs and some other stuff. But but again, this is the critical damage is good here, but again, I don't have critical rate anywhere. But as you can see, I have a lot of energy recharge on most of these artifacts. So if I could change that with critical damage with some of them, or even critical rate, it would make Childe just a little better, like a little better, because he's already doing pretty good at the moment. But yeah, that's and one last thing is the force piece set for the Hydro set, the harder to death, the 15% the Hydro damage bonus, and then using elemental skill increases no one charge attacks by 30%. And this is why he does a pretty good amount of damage. And then just to talk about before I start, showing you just some of the gameplay and everything that with the team that I rock, the team I specifically rock is Ningguang as a sub DPS. So Ningguang is normally sub DPS. So anytime my Childe is off field, I'll normally have either Ningguang or Zhongli on the field doing damage. But most of the time, Ningguang to just output as much damage as I can while Childe is on his cooldowns for his E. I enjoy using Ningguang, and she's not really a bad choice of having as a sub DPS for Childe in my eyes. And then Zhongli, because his elemental skill reduces the enemy's elemental resistance by 20%. So Childe is doing more damage because of that. So that's already a really good a buff. And then one other thing is, so here we're gonna do elemental resonance. I can't remember top of the head. Increases shield strength. That increases the 15. Okay, so damage dealt increased by 15%. So that's why I also have Enduring Rock to increase the damage dealt by 15%. And it also helps my Ningguang and my Zhongli do more damage as well. So whenever I'm using Ningguang, she does more damage, including, I think this also stacks with Zhongli's shield, which reduces their geo resistance as well, but I could be wrong. I can't remember, but they just do more damage, which is nice. And of course I have Chi-Chi for the healing, and then also for a freeze comp with Childe. It's nothing too crazy there. It's pretty simple. But yeah, I'm gonna show you just some clips of me fighting, and she's showing you some of the damage and stuff like that. Alright guys, I'm gonna just showcase what I normally do to get in and out of fights with the team composition with Childe that I have at the moment. Of course, you could also use a different sub DPS if you like, but if you don't have Zhongli or Chi-Chi, then of course just have one healer, one support, and then have like Fischl, or somebody that you enjoy. But if you guys have any questions on like who do you think might be good or not good, just ask me, and I'll give you my opinion, honestly. So here, we'll show you how it's pretty effective. He does a pretty good amount of damage, at least with his late game build. This is definitely a late game build, just to keep that in mind. This is not something, unless you get extremely lucky, it may take a while to actually get this, like, to the point where you see my Childe is right now.
Stabilize. Order guide you. Shouldn't let your guard down.
Sacred name, fortune preserver.
Order guide you.
Give up.
Riptide. I will have order. Shouldn't let your guard down.
As you can see, Zhongli really helps Childe. Zhongli really helps Childe in the way that his sustain is just too good. Not having that sustain definitely makes Childe a lot harder when fighting bigger enemies like that, because they could just like, push you around if you're really unlucky. I could have used Chi-Chi there more. I should have to freeze them, but Okay, so here, well, we'll fight these enemies, and then the thing about Childe is understanding his cooldown. Anytime you see the little like flashing on his head, normally at that point you want to end the or just end the that little like symbol that goes across his head. Once it starts flashing, I think that's the point where you kind of want to end it, unless you want to get the full cooldown, which normally I wouldn't recommend because it goes like 10 seconds longer. Unless you stop it at the right time. So once it starts blinking, you stop it at that time, then it'll be like a 35-second cooldown. But if not, then it'll probably go to a full 45 seconds, like if you wait the full timer, which normally I wouldn't recommend. That's why I would heavily suggest having a decent sub DPS on your team, so they could just fill in that gap time, or you could just use Childe and again use his as you can see I'm doing here. I'm doing like 5k per hit, 6k depending on the enemy, and then which is still really good as well. That's not to be overlooked. So you could use his bow. It's just, of course, his melee stance would be a lot better. But hopefully this video helped you guys out if you're wondering just on kind of what direction you want to build your Childe. And yeah, if you guys did enjoy the video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for watching.